as it starts recording. All right, welcome. Appreciate everybody for showing up. Today, this is, of course, introduction to corrections. And we're going to be talking today about something pretty important called the Bill of Rights. It's nice that we have this because it kind of lends like probable cause, some things that we're looking at as we're looking at the law that go in a person's favor, right? So, like how they say innocent until proven guilty, right? That kind of goes in the lines of what our rights are. And so we're just going to go over that today. So if you can jump on the Nearpod link, I'd appreciate it. We're going to have a little bit of chat conversation going on there if it works. Before last class, the Nearpod didn't work very well. So but hopefully we can do it. So if you can jump on, that'd be great. If not, we can always just message the chat. Just so you remember, this lesson is being recorded for learning purposes. Expectations, make sure you're following along with the Nearpod lesson. You use the chats tool respectfully and appropriately. Respond to questions and instructions the first time. Okay, Bill of Rights. Before I go into that real quick, I did want to just show you what's happening here in the course. Remember, I just have all the lessons and stuff on this front page under the announcements. If we click on plan, you can see here that live class every Thursday. We do have spring break coming up. If you are a part-time student or SOEP, I would suggest actually going ahead and getting some of these things done, because I think your deadline is like beginning of May, just because of the end of school and we got to get things for graduation and all that kind of stuff to tidy up. So try to get that all rolling. Yeah, can you believe it's that soon that we're like the end of school? So yeah, not much longer, but okay. So we hit it at content here. We have these 5 units that we'll be going over in class. Bill of Rights is right here. If you need the Nearpod link, if you want to see a lesson recording, hit that up there. If you miss class, whatever, I put that right there. I got the Bill of Rights website right here. So this will kind of help you as maybe you're doing your quiz today. And then we have our lesson 2 assignment, which is 10 questions. And we're going to kind of go over some of those at the very end of class. So stick around till then and we'll go from there. Okay. Any questions before we get started? I take no answer as a no. Okay, let's get rolling. All right, so given quizzes in the OLS, students will accurately answer multiple choice questions about the Bill of Rights with 80% accuracy across one trial. So what is the Bill of Rights? Okay, so we've all have rights as citizens of the United States, but what they are and where they come from, this unit will focus on the rights of Americans, including the right to free speech, okay, free press and privacy. You will also learn about the history and the practical application of these rights. All right, we're gonna watch a little video about it and then discuss a little bit more.
The first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution, also known as the Bill of Rights, were ratified or passed over 200 years ago. But even though they're a bit, old, these first 10 amendments are still the most debated and discussed section of our Constitution today. So can you remember what they are? Let's take a look. The First Amendment is the freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and petition. This may be the most revered of the amendments. The First Amendment protects our rights to say and write our opinions, worship how we please, assemble together peacefully, and petition our government if we feel the need. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. The original intent of the Second Amendment was to protect colonists from the invading British soldiers, but it now guarantees that you have the right to own a gun to defend yourself and your property. The Third Amendment is called the Quartering Amendment. It was written in response to the British occupation and as a result of the colonists having to house or quarter soldiers in their homes during the American Revolution. Because of this amendment, our government can never force us to house soldiers in our home. The Fourth Amendment is the right to search and seizure. The police can't come into our home without a search warrant and take our personal property. Today, many concerns have arisen about our rights to privacy and technology. For example, can the government track your location with your smartphone, or can social media postings such as on Facebook and Twitter be used without a warrant? On to the fifth. It's all about due process. You've probably heard the phrase, "I plead the fifth," in movies or on TV. They're talking about the Fifth Amendment, which says that you don't have to take the witness stand against yourself if you may end up incriminating yourself. Okay, we're halfway done. The Sixth and Seventh Amendments are about how the legal system works. If you're accused of a crime, you have the right to a speedy public trial and an impartial jury. You also have the right to a lawyer and the right to take the stand if you choose. This is important because it will prevent the accused from sitting in prison forever and insists that the prosecution proceed with undue delay. The seventh says you have the right to a jury trial where 12 impartial peers decide your innocence or guilt in the courtroom, as opposed to a judge doing it all alone. The Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. Is a death penalty cruel? Is it unusual? It's hard for Americans to agree on the definitions of cruel and unusual. The Ninth and Tenth Amendments are called the non-rights amendments. They say that the rights not listed in the Bill of Rights are retained by the people in the states. You have other rights that are not listed in the Constitution, and the states have the right to make their own policies, like instituting state taxes. So now you know all 10 amendments. Can you remember them all? If not, remember this. The Bill of Rights are a crucial piece of American history, and though society has undergone many changes these past 200 and some years, the interpretation and application of these amendments are as vital today as they were when they were written.
All right, so that kind of gave you a breakdown of what the Bill of Rights is all about. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick just scenario here. Okay, so you kind of tell me what you think. So Justin, a high school sophomore, believes strongly in the freedom to express himself both at school and in other areas of his life. In order to spread his belief with others at his school, he created a small publication, which he printed on his own computer and posted it on his own website and passed around to students at his high school. He also kept several copies in both his backpack and his school locker. The officials at the school, principal, superintendent, school board, felt Justin's publication was distracting students during the school day. The search of Justin's locker and backpack and seized the publications. The principal suspended Justin for 3 days and threatened expulsion if he continued to pass out the publication to the people at the school. They said he was interfering with the students or the school's order. Justin, along with his friends, family, and most of his teachers, felt differently. Justin had to decide a decision to make. He could continue to operate his publication and website, keeping the hard copies out of school, or he could protest, stating that his constitutional rights have been violated under the First Amendment. Okay, so I think that's kind of interesting. So I'm thinking, what do you think Justin should do and why? If someone wants to run something at school, let them. Okay, I like it. So is that part of freedom of speech, freedom of the press? What do you guys think? If you want to post something on the Nearpod, I'm going to send that in the chat too. What are some other thoughts? It's not freedom if we can't do whatever we want. Okay. Do you think he should have been suspended? Do you think, if he kept, what is this? Is this violating his rights? What's your thoughts? Because these things happen, actually, all the time. It comes up. Somebody said, as long as he's not hurting anyone, I don't think it matters. Okay. Okay. He is well within his rights. Okay. Yeah. So we had a story about Justin, and Justin had a publication. Okay. And what he did is he posted on his website and he started distributing it at school. Well, the school suspended him and said that he'd be kicked out of school if he continued his publication because it was disrupting the school environment. Well, I'm not sure what eat cheese means, but okay. What are about other thoughts? Okay, so somebody said it's freedom of speech, freedom until you badmouth the government. Okay. Let him do what he wants as long as it goes with the school rules. Okay. So I think it's in the passing of the hall, right? Is it disrupting the learning? I mean, that's kind of like our other thing, right? Was it actually disrupting the thing? I think you have to prove that was disrupting in order for the school to actually take an actual stance. At least that's my thought. But those are the kind of debates we're kind of talking about, right? Somebody said, I think he should be allowed to say what he wants, even if it isn't relevant in school. Okay. It wasn't during class. I think the school is being unfair. Okay. A lot of people agree with you on that. Okay. So kind of interesting. Okay. So those things happen all the time. And you kind of think, what is too far, right? And what is that? So if it's not, doesn't hurt anybody, it doesn't matter, right? And I think maybe you have to look a little bit more into like what the content was. If it was actually like negative impacting, yeah, like Jonathan said here, negative impact or any person or group. Okay. If it was very derogatory or possibly racist or something like that, then we got to really look into it, right? So it's interesting how these things kind of roll. Okay. All right. So the U.S. Bill of Rights, we kind of talked about that already. What it is, and they continue to have these. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments, but there are amendments after that. Okay, that continue on with what things are, and there's amendments still being kind of made. We're going to go over some of the main ones here. One is like the Fifth Amendment that states that people cannot be held responsible for criminal actions unless the court of the land declares them responsible. Okay. It provides people with the right to not testify against themselves in trial, right? It's called self-incriminating yourself, and prevents them from being repeatedly tried for the same crime. So that's called double jeopardy. Okay. You don't have to, you can't be tried for the same crime over and over again. You may have heard the phrase, I plead the fifth, which refers to this amendment. This means that I'm exercising my Fifth Amendment right and will not admit guilt in this trial. The Fifth Amendment also is important, especially in like corrections, as we're talking about that, of what's called a due process, which means your due process rights is you have to like say, hey, like what, you can't just say, hey, you did this and then have the action be brought forth. You have to go forward and show evidence that that is actually the case. Okay. Another one we're going to talk about is the Sixth Amendment. Okay. In the past, this wasn't uncommon for individuals to be arrested and keep them in jail for extremely long periods of time. And in many cases, they weren't fully aware of the charges against them. The founding fathers felt that was unfair and unjust. So they established the Sixth Amendment, which created the right to a prompt trial, okay, including the right to accuse your to know who accused you, to basically confront those and bring charges against them. Okay, so for example, like Guantanamo Bay, I don't know if you've heard of that before, but that's a place where like the what is it, the Freedom Act, the Patriot Act, that's what it's called. So the Patriot Act back in the early 2000 after 9/11, any terrorists were detained underneath the Patriot Act, and they didn't have these Sixth Amendment rights, and so they just hold them without even bringing forth like what their crime was, right? And so that prevents that for citizens of the United States. Okay. The Eighth Amendment, in the past, people were arrested and kept in jail for long periods of time. Many could not pay the fines the governing body imposed on them, so they would just keep them in prison. Hold on. When you say, okay. Then authors of the U.S. Constitution felt that it was unfair as well, so they created the Eighth Amendment. The Eighth Amendment also designed to ensure people were not punished in a manner that was too severe for their crime or punishment. So, for example, if somebody steals something, right? It used to be like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, right? Or if you steal something, we'll cut off your hand. They don't have that anymore. Like, what is cruel and unusual punishment, right? And so I think cutting off somebody's hand would be right for stealing something. I don't think anybody wants that. Okay. All right. The Ninth Amendment basically says that rights that are not listed in the Constitution go back to the people, right? This one's kind of cited as almost like a joke because if it's not written down these days, people say you don't have the rights, unfortunately. But that's what the wording is in the Ninth Amendment. Okay, so let's talk about something that's kind of interesting and relevant in today's world. We're going to do another quick little scenario because I think they're kind of interesting when it comes to corrections in the law. So, what is censorship? So, censorship and the press. Nothing in them is more important in America than the right to say what you are thinking, be it in words, song, or writing. This is the sanction place on the expression is known as censorship. No group of the people in America resists censorship more than the media or press. The First Amendment guarantees the right to freedom of press and that members of the press see any restrictions on what they create as an attempt to control the press. In today's society, the terms press or media have come to include works that are published on the internet. In addition to traditional print articles or news coverage, the freedom of the press also covers web blogs, websites, and other various e-publications. More traditional publications such as newspapers, television, broadcasts, and magazines are also covered. High school publications are covered by freedom of the press, provided that they do not cause a disturbance in the inherent purpose of the school, which is to educate our pupils. Okay. So that goes back to our story. Okay. Was it okay for the administration to do that? Right. And it all hinges on the thing. If it's being disruptive in the school, then they possibly have that right. Okay. But they had to prove that. So if you were to bring some type of process, he could use Justin in our scenario, could use his due process rights in order to have all those things. Okay. So that's going to end us of what we're going to talk about, but I want to go over the assignment so you have some information. Also, if you look right here, there's a website with the Bill of Rights that can help you. And I'm going to throw these out in the chat here. Okay. That will help you in your assignment here. So we're just going to kind of go over these things. But it has scenarios. So you're going to have to kind of really look into some of these, right? So imagine that a large company wanted to prohibit any of its workers from belonging to a union and force its employees to sign an oath that they would only support anti-union political candidates. What amendment does that violate? Okay. Well, we got to think freedom of speech. Okay. Which amendment is freedom of speech? Okay. We talked about that. You may have to go back to the Bill of Rights to see what that is. Okay. One complaint of the political prisoners held in Guantanamo Bay. Okay. So you may want to go back to here. Let me open the slides up for everybody and talk about the one about Guantanamo Bay, right? So I'm going to turn on self-paced so you guys can all look at it, right? But the Guantanamo Bay one was right here, okay? So you'll need to know what amendment that is, okay? Imagine the President of the United States wants to declare that Christianity is a country's national religion, okay? Much like Anglican Church in England. What amendment protects that from being happening, okay? That's the freedom of religion, okay? So you're going to have to go here and look at some of these. Okay. All right. Look, if you read it, you'll find out. Okay. Which amendment offers protections against being tried more than once? Double jeopardy, right? We talked about that. So finding the near pod about double jeopardy, which is, right, you got the little double jeopardy sign right there. Okay. Implied rights can be enumerated depending upon the Supreme Court's decision. Okay. Implied rights. Implied rights was the 9th Amendment, right? So you want to go look at the 9th Amendment. Does it have to be with the Supreme Court, or do the Bill of Rights gives it to you? I would say look at the document, the 9th one. What might constitute probable cause under the 4th Amendment? Okay. Go to the 4th Amendment in there, figure it out. Imagine that a president decides to officially adopt a specific news channel. Okay. All right. Freedom of press. We got to look at that one. Which document that? And it can be, the answer can be one amendment quite a bit. Okay. So the same amendment. So you might want to there. Here's what entity would be considered to be part of free press. Okay. Remember, free press is any kind of e-publication or something like that that's written and stuff like that. So which one of these is like expressing yourself? Okay. How many amendments make up the Bill of Rights? Okay. We talked about that. There's how many? Okay. And warrants are necessary for speech largely because of which constitutional amendment. So you got to go there and say, which one says that you can go out and do that? So this is going to be a great reference to you right here. The 10 amendments. Oh, I just gave you an answer because I said that to get those right. And if you don't get it all right, go back and redo it. So, okay, guys, if you have any questions, my contacts information here, I'll stay after for a bit, but I appreciate you joining me today.